snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into spring. These are a few of my favorite things. Now listen up.
Welcome back to the Festivus series, where we cover all of your favorite Christmas movies, including Jingle All the Way, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, Lethal Weapon, and more. Tune in all holiday season to listen to your favorite movies covered on Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from coldsploitation.com, and I'm joined by my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
We're back with another holiday episode with the Festivus series. We've been doing the Festivus series for 2 years now, and this is like the fourth episode that we've done in this year in the Festivus series. Hopefully you caught last week's episode on the Santa Claus 2. Had a great time doing that one.
Oh, marvelous.
Magnificent film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We'd also watched, we did the backwards sort of. We did the Santa Claus 2 for the podcast, and then we watched the Santa Claus as our drinking game with our friends for Christmas this year.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was different because we normally do Christmas with the Cranks, and this is the first time we've ever done the Santa Claus, and it worked out. It worked out pretty well. We had a lot more rules in this one than we did, like more unique rules than we did in Christmas with the Cranks. In Christmas with the Cranks, we basically just do like Luther when they say Frosty, when they say Christmas, shit like that. And it's, you know, there's a lot of them for sure, but it's not super like, you know, creative. The Santa Claus rule for this one were pretty creative. Like when Bernard is kvetching, which we got online. When
Scott Calvin has said.
Yep, Scott Calvin has said, which isn't as much as you might think. I mean, it does happen. You have to say the full name. When Scott is worried or gets another Santa Claus characteristic to him.
Anytime Charlie's being whiny or pouty, which that rule is the one that will destroy you.
There's quite a few instances. You have to really come up with whether you're going to count in the same scene of him just like being whiny every single time you switch back to him in a shot, or if you're just gonna like take one scene and then run with it. But it was a lot of fun. Had a good time. Got toasty. So that's all that matters in a drinking game.
Yeah.
For this week's episode, we probably could have done a drinking game for it as well. It's pretty easy to make one up, I think.
I'm sure there's plenty.
I'm sure there's a bunch out there. But this time we're talking about probably one of the most Christmassy movies that we've done this Festivus series, Lethal Weapon. Now, Lethal Weapon sort of sits in that is it or isn't it a Christmas movie zone, like Die Hard.
I think it's more Christmassy than Die Hard.
We've seen people arguing for that Lethal Weapon is actually the superior action Christmas movie. I don't know that I agree with that. I think that at least Die Hard has the atmosphere a little bit better down because Lethal Weapon takes place in LA. And
so does.
Yes, it does, but Nakatomi Plaza is all decked out. And when you don't really leave Nakatomi Plaza, you actually see a lot of the Christmas decorations throughout. So you're sort of constantly being barraged with like the atmosphere of Christmas. In Lethal Weapon, it's here and there, sporadic. But I don't know that the decorations and the actual Christmas presence is as present as in Die Hard.
Well, I think a general rule should be for Hollywood: don't make your movie that's supposed to be taking place around Christmas in L.A.
It's a big pet peeve of mine for sure. Right away, if you're making a Christmas movie and it's taking place in L.A., the most quintessential element is sort of like lost. You know, because most people, even if you're watching a Christmas movie that was shot in LA, they're expecting snow in it. And when you don't deliver the snow, the magical element of snow, you really lose part of the Christmas charm of your film. I think that's a problem.
Nice 80-degree December day, and Tom Atkins is like, eggnog.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, this doesn't really have the atmosphere, especially like in the actual outer elements, because the film takes place quite a bit in the outside, And one of the funny things is that, yeah, it does look very warm out. A pool is even open at one point in this film.
No, it's not open.
It's not open, I guess, but it's still, it's not like it's shut down completely. It just basically has a cover on it.
I was just saying, it's never cold in LA.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it's like, you know, when you see people from Florida come up here,
Yeah.
it's like 60 degrees, and they got the park is like, it's freezing outside over, like, you know, our night, like sandals and, you know,
But in this
shorts
one,
on, like, this is great.
you constantly see like Mel Gibson and Danny Glover wearing jackets, like heavy jackets. And it's pretty clearly not that cold outside. I think they were trying to get across that, like, hey, it's Christmas time, it's December. But it's kind of hard to sell that when you're in LA and pretty much everybody's like out on the street, just like in their skirts, t-shirts. It's not that cold. I do think it's a problem, you know, and in some ways, like maybe certain films can get away with having an LA or a warmer climate setting because they're not really meaning to get across that Christmas aspect to it. But when you say, like, why set Lethal Weapon during Christmas if you're not really trying to sell the Christmas aspect of the film? That's my my pet peeve with any film that takes place in, like, a warmer climate and you're eliminating the snow from your Christmas movie. Think about Jack Frost. That wouldn't have occurred in L.A. Michael Keaton would never have had to come back from the dead.
Because Michael Keaton was only good enough to play in bars.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like 70 years old and I'm a big star playing, you know, some fucking podunk town doing a bar show. Can't wait. Gotta miss seeing my kid.
It's because he's basically the Bruce Springsteen of Jack Frost, and he's like the working class man. He's like, I play for all the, you know, everybody. And people can't afford a stadium tour. I play for them too.
Yeah, but guess what? Bruce Springsteen
I know, does stadium tours.
And he's on fucking Broadway now.
You gotta pay big money to get lucky enough to have him slide across the stage and put his crotch in your face.
When you mentioned liking his songs at the mall, his Christmas songs, all I could think about was and we were talking about the Super Bowl halftime shows and how nobody wants to play with Maroon 5. I was just thinking of him like, you're gonna put the finger down. He slides across the stage as 10th Avenue frees out, starts playing. Good times.
That's exactly what I was thinking of when I was thinking about him putting his crotch in your face.
Yeah, that's what he does.
That's what he does.
Slides across the stage and he hits the camera right with his nuts.
Boom.
Teabags him.
Well, we'll end this introduction by just talking a little bit about Lethal Weapon. Been a long time since I've seen Lethal Weapon. Probably like over a decade since I've seen Lethal Weapon. Don't really revisit it. It's not one of those movies that like I watch for the holidays. And honestly, I can't remember 2 and 3 and only a little bit of 4.
Now, point I'm going to bring up, because I'm in the same boat. And generally we shouldn't do comparisons on the show, but I want to do comparisons on the show with Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this not as much remembered and loved as Die Hard? I mean, a lot of people love the Lethal Weapon franchise.
Yeah.
And, you know some of the things, but why is it not, at least, you know...
Right, like as popular, as mentioned often as Die Hard?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
And as we kind of like go through...
we'll try to break it down
and do some comparisons.
Yeah. Be interesting to take a look at and see why has Die Hard been so proliferative in pop culture. Lethal Weapon has in its own way, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I think that it does pale in comparison, like when it comes up in popular conversation. Lethal Weapon's not really the one that they go to. It's mostly Die Hard.
Well, yeah, for every year for the past like 7 years now, everyone's like, Die Hard's the greatest Christmas movie, you know?
Yeah.
Just like,
why is everybody skipping over Lethal Weapon?
Came first, you know? It was before Die Hard, no.
That's true. 1987. Yeah, so it's weird though. Yeah, I have not seen this movie very often.
I just remember it's, you know, like I said, I remember kind of like the kind of pop cultural references. Mm-hmm. I know it stars Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. I didn't know Gary Busey was in it. I do remember Joe Pesci being in the second one. And I remember, you know, it had something to do with Eric Clapton working with some of the music. That's, you know, but for the most part, like a lot of the beats to the movie don't remember like
Yeah.
I do with Die Hard.
No, I don't. I didn't remember much of it at all. And even revisiting it and watching it again, nothing really stood out to me as being something that I remembered from this film. So I really had no like pre-existing nostalgia for this film going into it.
Going in as a blank slate.
Yeah, basically. It's like watching it all over again for the first time because I really didn't remember much of it at all. And I was probably not that old when I saw it the first time anyway. So, nothing
And
really.
it's strange I haven't seen it a billion times because TBS used to play all of the movies on like dinner and a movie all the fucking time. You know, like this is one of your movies you're getting, and now we return to the thrilling conclusion of Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Yeah, they used to do that a lot. I think they played the sequels more than anything, but
Oh yeah, cheaper to get.
oh yeah, for sure.
Just about every film. I think the only one that might be a little hard to get the sequel is with Star Wars getting Empire compared to New Hope.
True.
And for Godfather, it might be a little hard to get Godfather for it too. But yeah.
All right. Before we get into the film itself, do you want to go into our beer talk? Because we're actually not drinking beer right now because we already did that earlier in the day. Because we went to the mall today. We hit up World of Beer at 11:45, and we did some day drinking today.
Well, we'd still be day drinking if we were drinking now.
That's yeah. I actually got super sleepy after my beer.
Wait, no, it's 5 o'clock.
I got super sleepy after my beer, so I haven't really had anything else.
Yeah, I've just been wanting water.
Yeah, but we did hit up some new stuff. I had today the Sly Fox Orange Slice Nitro IPA, which I thought it sounded pretty interesting. Mostly because it was a nitro IPA. They're not super common. And I thought this one was an interesting beer. However, it does tend to run, or at least the draft that I had, was on the flat side. That could be because it is a nitro beer. I don't know that that's always the case. And from my experience having nitro IPAs, they're not generally as flat as this one was. So I'm not sure if it was an issue with the actual keg itself or how it was poured or the beer. But whatever the case, that was a little bit too flat for my tastes. Even though the actual substance to the IPA was very, very creamy. Incredibly creamy, actually, with the Nitro Stout. And the orange flavors do really come out in this IPA as well. But I just ultimately was wishing for something that had a little bit more carbonation to it and something that didn't really, like, it kind of tastes like if you've ever had like a green IPA before it's been completely carbonated. That's kind of what this tasted like. So I really wished for some more carbonation to this besides the nitro aspect to it. And that would have made it like a really great beer with an intense orange flavor to it. The other one that I had was, we talked about this on the show last time when we had the 21st Amendment IPA on here. I had the Fireside Chat from 21st Amendment, which is a winter warmer ale. And I thought it was pretty good, nice and spicy, heavy, nice malting body to it, and pretty smooth as well. The only thing is that if you've had a winter ale, this is like very standard winter ale style. Nothing really different about it. It pretty much tastes like any other winter ale that you've had. And I've had quite a few recently, so I wasn't like super wowed by it, but I thought it was a really good interpretation of, that style of beer. So I would say that I had 2 fairly successful pints today that I thought were all right. I don't know if I'd go back to the orange slice, but the Fireside Chat I would definitely do again when I'm in the mood for a winter warmer. And what did you have, Martin?
Well, I'm not even gonna really try to pronounce the first beer I had.
Yeah, I believe it's called Kapuziner Hefe,
which is made by
Kulmbacher Brauerei,
Yeah.
which is basically Kulmbacher Brewery.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I can read the Deutsch, I can't speak the Deutsch.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to mispronounce it and upset my ancestors. But yeah, because over the past year, I've had a change changed my tune on Hefeweizens. It used to be something I didn't like. There's only a couple that I had. One was by Sam Adams, and Sam Adams, you're on my shit list for quite a while now. Not because their coastal wheat Hefeweizen sucked balls, but it did. But I mean, they're on my shit list just because they're constantly doing stupid shit, and that's besides the point. But anywho, I've originally had a couple of bad Hefeweizens for the longest time. Didn't go near them because I thought they were too banana-y. And over the past year, I've gotten to have a bunch of different ones like Hoffenbrau, this, and I'm like, I love them. They're so delightful and fruity and effervescent. It's great. It's like I'm just, So I decided I wanted to try this because wasn't really feeling an IPA at the moment. I wanted something different, and to be honest with you, when you're at World of Beer, for the most part, as I was going down the beer list, I was like, nothing's really. I don't want a fucking strong ale at 11 o'clock, and
right.
Have this Victory, like they had Victory Double Strong Ale. It's probably good, but no thank you.
Yeah.
So I wanted something light and refreshing. So I got the Kapuziner Hefeweizen. I liked it. It's good. It was crisp. It was refreshing. It was light. Problem was, instead of having like a kind of a citrusy clove taste, it was more banana-y. Wasn't too bad. I still don't really care for it. So I did appreciate it more than I would have years ago. And I liked it. I would get it again and drink it, but I still don't care for my Hefeweizen to be more banana-y in its taste. I, prefer to not have that aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one I had was, I decided to say fuck it and get an IPA after that one. And I got Brown's Brewery's Bikes Naipa. First thing I said as soon as I drank some of it and had just like a bit of the foam, I'm like, it tastes like a New England IPA. It's, that got that hazy look and that hazy golden citrus taste. It's a Naipa, alright. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really feel like breaking down like the hop notes. It's, by this point, with all the Naipas that we've kind of starting to cover on here, because it's a really big, popular IPA style of late, it is Naipa, and
there wasn't anything that stood out to you about it.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, maybe if it was the only Naipa, and I really, really wanted a Naipa at a restaurant or bar, and that's all they had, fine. Other than that, never go out of my way for it again. It's like I said, it's not bad, but it's like, generic as generic gets.
Yeah.
For that style, so
yeah, we had 4 different beers that we could cover on here today, and I think probably next time we'll do the New Belgium, the pack that I got,
which I'm excited for.
Yeah,
because that has a white IPA in it.
Yeah,
and nobody does a white IPA anymore. Hell, originally Saranac was the only one to do it, and it was brilliant. Is first when they started the whole let's do an IPA for every fucking color in the spectrum, and they started with red, black, and white, and they were one of the first to do the white, and they got rid of it. And no one else does it, so
be interesting to check it out and see how they do that one.
Which, if for those who don't know, white IPA is taking Belgian wheat style and combining it with an IPA.
It's good.
Which you might say sounds like a Naipa, because it had the hazy. It does have that hazy color, but it's more focused on the orange and coriander parts of a wheat ale, and getting that wheat ale look and that unfiltered look, and with the hop balance with that.
Yeah,
and then I just remember being there, so I'm really excited. Yeah,
I'm excited to try that. It's the first time I've ever seen that winter pack out before, so hopefully it's good.
Yeah,
we'll do that next time.
I haven't really had a beer from New Belgium that I haven't liked.
Yeah, that's true. And they do a lot of experiments too with different types of beers. Sometimes they put out Abbey Ales quads, stuff like that.
Well, they should. It's in the name, Belgium.
Yep. So interesting to try that. We'll probably have that for next week's episode. You want to go right into Lethal Weapon? Get right into it, nitty gritty on this one. So Lethal Weapon is probably, like you said, it's not really expanded much into pop culture, but the references have. So one of the most prominent references to Lethal Weapon that has stuck out not only in this film, but has then migrated into other films. And by the way, Martin is still sick, so he's still got that nasty cough. The phrase that has migrated out of this film into other things is "I'm too old for this shit" from
Danny Glover.
And one thing we must point out is that in this film, Danny Glover was really not that old.
He's 42?
Yeah.
Something, but he's 50 in the movie?
Yeah, he was... I wonder, that's kind of a slap in the face. So, like, Danny, you're going to play a 50-year-old in this movie. You look 50. 8 years older than you look.
Well, not only that,
8 years older than you are.
When they were, like, talking about, like, back in Vietnam, and it's like, when was he in Vietnam? Like, right when the war started?
Yeah.
And even still, he's like 25 years old and 65 heading off to Nam, you know?
Poor Danny Glover in this film is just... Not only does he have to pretend like he's an old man, but he also doesn't get any of the really cool scenes because he is supposed to be old.
Yeah.
So he doesn't like get to do any of the cool stuff that Mel Gibson actually gets to do in this film.
That young plucky upstart.
Yeah, exactly. Suicidal Mel Gibson gets to do. So I just wanted to start off by saying, yeah, Danny Glover's actually not that old in this film. And I think they made him keep the mustache for that reason. Makes him look a little bit older.
And they graded up his hair a little bit.
Yeah, makes him look a little older. But Lethal Weapon is one of those movies that has like a super vague premise to it. Even though that premise sort of carries throughout the film and it doesn't really change that much, the premise of it just is very, very vague.
Blink and you'll miss a lot of the main plot beats with like what's going on with like the villains.
One of the things that I love about the film, because it's so generically 80s, is that they get to just blame everything on the war. Most of the time, they don't even mention the war's name. It's just literally like, there's a shadow operation in the war. And that's it. That's like, you can blame everything on the war, and you don't really need to do any more storytelling than that. People are just like, oh, the war. Yeah, the war. The war was awful. The war. Shadow operatives in the war. I love that. Because that's sort of like that was an 80s thing where it was like, don't want to expand on the plot at all. Just like give it some vagueness to it and people won't even question it. Or
not only that, for the 80s, talk about, war veterans and special forces. They're like Predator. Mm-hmm. They're all, special forces, commando,
super secret operation in the war that was created. No one's ever heard of it before.
Do you think someone was saying like when his wife Dan Glover's wife does mention Vietnam, like when he's talking about
Vietnam buddy,
yeah. But it could be like because it's like, what, Grenada? Didn't that like take place over 2 days?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the war. Oh, okay, Grenada. Yeah.
I just love that about Lethal Weapon because it does sort of use the war as the backdrop. It's just like, we don't really need to give any more explanation than there is. The war happened. Bad guys came out of the war. Good guys came out of the war. Tom
Atkins, did something that makes Danny Glover at least owe him to kill some people.
Yeah. It's just a very vague backdrop. And like you said, it's a blink and you miss it sort of thing because the explanation for this whole thing really doesn't come about. You get the first opening thing that sets things in motion, a hooker jumping out of a window after snorting some...
Which, by the way, apparently not that cold in L.A. She's just standing on top of a 70-story high-rise, titties out on like the guardrail in the middle of the night.
She's hot now because she smoked some... Or she
stored some
coke, so it's fine. She's not feeling it that much. Numbed. But...
Which I find funny because all we see in the intro is she snorts some coke and like gonna go free falling for a ride. Why, we don't know. And she falls and dies.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, Danny Glover's like, she took, when they're like talking about the autopsy report, she took some pills. They were poisoned. So even if she didn't jump, she was gonna die anyway. It's murder. No, it's not. If she ended up killing herself before she was poisoned, no, that's,
It's true.
That's just attempt. That's not murder. That's,
I do love that whole setup because
that's like that's like a really like a DA like really trying to reach on a charge like murder.
Mm-hmm. And even from what we see, it's not really like she was coerced into doing anything of this. Like, she basically was just snorted some cocaine, went out on the balcony, took a fall. It was calm when she was falling. Like, it was not even anything, and that pretty much sets in motion the rest of Lethal Weapon, because this is the daughter of the prominent war buddy that
apparently in some bad doings.
Yeah, Roger knows. And one thing that the film never really goes into in detail is like all of the connections between the characters. It's always left very vague. And I'm not saying that an action movie really needs to go into detail about like all of the interconnected weavings of like bad guys. But if you watch a lot of 80s films, some of them do have really good plots to them, where underneath like the actual action sequences, you do have a nice like mysterious weaving of like story connections and characters that are darkly related to each other. Like they've done bad things and they're connected in some ways. And this film, like if you can imagine like a diagram of Lethal Weapon, everything is like in the middle of that. There's this web that sprawls out, and in the middle it just says the war. And that's it. That's basically it. And then over here on the side is like drugs, heroin, and Greg's father from Dharma and Greg.
I was thinking the same thing too.
But I think that Lethal Weapon, we were talking a little bit, comparing it to Die Hard. What's one of the reasons why Lethal Weapon isn't that prominent, whereas Die Hard is? Die Hard has a pretty fun story to it.
No.
Oh, you're going to disagree there.
I'm going to disagree, because Die Hard is also very bare bones.
It is.
Because a problem that Lethal Weapon suffers from is the exposition bug. Outside of Murdoch and Riggs's, we're talking Riggs's relationship, and as it grows, we do get to see that and all their interaction stuff. But a lot of like backstory and stuff that's going on is exposited away. So you're talking about the war and how that brings Tom Atkins in, and then talking about Murtaugh and Riggs's background, the war, and like their cop, and like how I'm old and just want to retire, damn it. And, well, I'm crazy and I'm, suicidal. Most of the stuff's exposited. It's the same damn way, though, in Die Hard. What a lot of people forget, there's a lot of downtime moments where it's nothing but Reginald V. Johnson and Bruce Willis talking hammy like they stole from Lethal Weapon. Like,
True.
Talk to me, what's going on? Oh, man, if you were in a lot of shit going on, this guy, this Hans Gruber fella, man, there's a lot of things. Just stay in there and don't,
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah,
there's a lot of the same shit. I mean,
I think maybe that
the point of Die Hard, like the overall plot's more interesting, being locked down Nakatomi Plaza,
yeah.
But like the Bruce Willis's motivation, the cop antic bullshit, Hans Gruber, and why he's doing is all bare bones, basic bullshit too.
You're right.
It's the same thing with Lethal Weapon, the drug, CIA drug muling part from the war that led by the special forces that has Gary Busey and blah, blah, blah. All that stuff's bare bones, but it's the stuff that kind of how you get like the action shit that happens around it that makes it interesting.
I think you're actually right. You kind of swayed me a little bit there. I think Die Hard's actual plot is more interesting. I think Lethal Weapon's got, like, the whole drug mule aspect to it is just very generic to me.
Very 80s.
Yeah.
But instead of, like, being, like, Colombian drug lords or something that have to do with Latin America, they're going back to Nam and, like, Vietnam and Laos to talk about, you know.
I mean, that stuff I think is very generic, and I think Die Hard does it better in terms of, like, setting it in one area and doing basically a 2-hour film in one location while making it entertaining for the audience to watch. I think that's done better in Die Hard. In Lethal Weapon, though, you were right about the character moments, because we do it does spend quite a bit of time tracing like what's Riggs's motivation here and what's why is he so upset about things, and then you also have Murdoch and there's a family aspect to him.
I was gonna say, hell, Gary Busey is the henchman Greg's dad from Dharma and Greg.
Yeah.
And he gets a higher billing on the credits.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, like, he makes, his character that's not really just a fucking... Looks like the combination of Red Grant and Max Zorin from two different Bond... From Russia with Love and, A View to a Kill. Like, that's what his character is in this. But because he's Gary fucking Busey, he's interesting, Same thing, like Danny Glover. Mel Gibson. Like, the cast in this make this film interesting. One of the main problems I had with Die Hard, as great, as Alan Rickman is, and memorable as Hans Gruber, and we talked about when we reviewed it, and how much I love Reginald V. Johnson, and I can't remember the fucker's name, but from the lieutenant in the movie who's like being the hard-ass cop, and not listen, but he's in the principal in The Breakfast Club.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Yeah,
either,
but like he makes some interesting. Bruce Willis is the fucking boat anchor in that movie.
True.
I don't like Bruce Willis, and I don't like him as an actor. I don't think in the Die Hard films he's very good. You take Alan Rickman out of that movie, even as cool of an idea it is, probably not going to be as memorable. Here though, Danny Glover, Mel Gibson, fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, it does have... So, Lethal Weapon... You talked about this during... when we were watching it, too. You were saying, is this cliched 80s movie during the time? Or does it just seem like it now because we've gotten so many buddy cop movies and stuff like that coming after the fact?
I think it does take some things that are cliche, but I think a lot of it is kind of original.
Yeah, I think some of it is cliched, and I think but I do think we tend to look back on it now and see it as cliched. So the whole setting up in the beginning of setting up the two juxtaposing characters and saying look at this life for Murdoch, and then look at Mel Gibson's character living in a trailer and basically going undercover and constantly just literally having a death wish in this film. Probably more so of a death wish than in Death Wish.
Seriously, where's Bronson?
Yeah.
They should have gotten Bronson. Imagine Bronson and Glover, because it couldn't be young Mel Gibson, because Bronson's the one with the death wish. He's just the old miserable curmudgeon.
Yeah, but I mean, in this one, you actually do get the setup of look at how different these two are. Look how they're not going to get along. You already know that when you see that first initial, back and forth between the two characters. I think it works pretty well. Again, I think that they leave, especially for Riggs' character, they leave his actual motivation of why he basically has a death wish, doesn't really care about his life anymore, to the very, very vague characteristic that his wife's dead. And that's pretty much it. His wife's dead, he's upset. That's why he wants to kill himself or be killed in the line of duty, being a hero. I think they could have gone a little bit further with that. But at the same time, I just appreciate Mel Gibson going nuts every once in a while in Lethal Weapon. Just flying off the handle, doing his little goofy, especially during the scene where he's undercover in the Christmas tree site, and he's
that's as
buying
Christmas
drugs.
as you get.
Yeah, exactly. He's buying, there's the snow right there. The heroin is the snow. And he's buying heroin or cocaine, and they're like, there'll be 100. And he just starts pulling out 20s.
He's in his wallet, okay, 20, and he's counting change, 98, 99, no, 100,000.
It's great. I think that he does, even though I would argue that Mel Gibson in this film isn't really a great actor. His
demeanor fits the part.
Yeah, his demeanor and his devotion to the character works really well and makes it super entertaining to watch him in this movie.
Well, he just came off of the 3 Mad Max films, so he's probably get to actually show some range. Because in Mad Max, what a lot of people forget in the Mad Max movies, very just
right stoic.
And I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. There's no range to that, and you're right. I mean, this probably was something that he kind of jumped at the chance to show. All right, well, I can do something a little bit different. I can, be goofy and crazy when needed. And I think that works. I mean, I feel like some people could probably find his character a little annoying in this movie. And even now, watching it now, he seems like a really ridiculous character that while Lethal Weapon pretty much tries to be fairly serious throughout the film, it's not like some of the sequels where they start to get like overly ridiculous. This one tries to be pretty serious, and sometimes his character takes that out of the film.
And don't you love how? Well, no, because it's not his fault. The woman doctor at the police station says he's crazy and needs to be pulled out of the light.
That's true. Yeah.
And the male captain's like, women,
Yeah.
women opinions.
Yeah, I don't care about women's opinions. I'm putting them in the field anyway.
Didn't you love the line too, where it's like, I think I am. They're talking about in the 80s, man. Doesn't that and they're like, the guy's like, yeah, last night I was at home in bed and I cried, and Dan Glover's like, were you with a woman? And he's like, no, that's why I cried. And he's like, 80s, man, you are.
Yeah, I don't. Was that something? Was that like during the time? Was that like a big conversation?
I think that's just something that happens every decade when like
You just like
things are changing that you don't like, and like now, like how like you constantly hear people like, puh, millennial. This is 2018. You still hear people go, puh, millennials. And it's like you do realize most of them are 30 now.
Yep.
Yeah, or 30 now. Don't you mean like, huh, whatever comes after, after that.
Mm-hmm.
Gen Z or whatever the hell they're on now.
Whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I get you. Just like a sign of the times, changing of the times.
Yeah, people getting mad about, baby, it's cold outside. Why do you care? Just move on with your day. Oh, they don't like that song?
Oh well.
Just shrug your shoulders and move on. But no. Yeah.
One thing that we really liked about Lethal Weapon is the constant devotion to Murdoch's daughter, which is sort of creepy throughout the film, because the film spends a lot of time on that Rianne. That's like his sort of like teenage. I think she's supposed to be like 18 because she says she can drink but she can't smoke weed. So I think at the time she would have been probably 18.
No, it's 21 by then.
By 87?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe then she was.
No, it was the early 80s. They changed it because they changed it when like my mom turned 18.
Okay.
Because I don't remember exactly when, but I remember my mom saying when she was 18, it was still 18, and then they turned it to 19, so she was 19 when that happened, and then when they changed it to 21, she was 21.
So maybe she's 21 then. So she's a little bit older.
I don't know.
So maybe it makes it a little less creepy, but it doesn't make it creepy, or doesn't make it that less creepy when in the beginning scene when we meet Murtaugh and he's like get up for breakfast and drinking his OJ that his wife prepared for him that he doesn't really appreciate because he says his wife's terrible at cooking. And
That's just men talk.
And he gets up and his daughter comes downstairs and she's wearing a nice dress there's a very low cut dress that she's wearing. She says she's wearing it for New Year's Eve. And
that wouldn't be bad because you don't have to think that. Like,
right?
She could just be like, "Oh, Dad, look like my New Year's Eve dress."
Yeah.
But no, they add a sexy, saxophone.
Yeah, it's the saxophone that's sort of out of place there. Like, because you might take that scene as him just being like, "Oh, brother, my daughter's going. She shouldn't be wearing this." Like the usual dad thing from the 80s. Like, I can't believe my daughter's growing up and wearing these, this.
I don't think that's just a dad thing for the 80s. That's going to be a dad.
Yeah, it's forever. Ain't it?
That's going to be forever. Men know what men think and want. It's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
And then you have that thought of, like, that happening. You're like, oh, God. Yeah, no.
That would probably be fine if they just left it at that. But there is that really sexy sax line that they put in there.
Sound like it's going to break into careless whisper. Like,
and the thing about Lethal Weapon is that the sax is all over the place in this movie. It is very sax heavy.
Terribly so.
It's sexy. It's a sexy movie.
You know what? I feel like they actually had. It wasn't Clapton and the other guy who did the music for this. It's Kenny G.
Yeah. No, Kenny G's would be more. He plays alto, so it's a little bit more higher pitched. This one has that brassy sultriness to it. Kenny G's more like what you put on when you want your parents to feel comfortable.
And oh my god, the cues, like when things happen in this movie too, from they're so cliched cop movie, like hey, let's take like how like in the like a noir film, like that. And then we're gonna add some guitar to it, and like, now it's like comes off totally as cringeworthy, cliched. Like, is as you said, all this film was missing was Murtaugh fucking just like narrating throughout it. Like, I'm turning 50 today,
and then you might actually view it as sort of a
parody.
Yeah, or like an homage to a noir film.
Yeah,
I don't even see the sax and guitar in this as an homage to a noir film. It's more just like what would be really cool, during like fight scenes.
Well, no, it's weird. It's funny that you say that because again, it's not like that was something that was heavily present in noir films. But when you hear that, it does make you think like just put in black and white and have it constantly raining and add the narration over,
Yeah.
Because it's not like in the 40s when they were doing noir films, you were hearing fucking Clapton-esque.
No, it wasn't the guitar moments, but it was more like swelling, I don't know, or like orchestral
music
type music that would cue you into being like, oh, this is like a sexy scene.
Or a piano.
Yeah. And, I actually kind of think that the sax is ironically pleasing now. Like when you're watching Lethal Weapon, you're like,
man,
that's kind of fun.
Not for me.
I do.
I hate saxophone. So.
I like the sax moments, but I actually do. There's a few scenes that have a really good sax and guitar soundtrack to them when the guitar is actually playing a rhythm. Because most of the time in this film, the guitar is just doing like a little sting, like.
I mean, it's Clapton.
Like I said, but you said Clapton doesn't use a whammy bar. So, but if there was a whammy bar being used, it was broken by the time that the film was over because they are just sustained notes throughout. But I mean, I like it in an ironic way. But it's super cheesy. It really has not aged well, and I think part of that is because of like that sort of style has become obsolete at this point. Like. You wouldn't put it in your current movie unless you were legitimately trying to make it like cheesy on purpose. Otherwise, you would just be like written off immediately as a film director or a score producer. But that saxophone is like omnipresent. You said this film was nominated for a sound mixing award.
Yeah, the Academy.
And I would argue with that because I feel like the sound mixing is really not that good actually. Because sometimes the sax is just so overpowering over the other sound effects that are happening in the film it's just so overpowering in the mix. And I don't know why they would have nominated this one in particular for sound mixing, because it doesn't seem to me to be that, impressive. I don't know. Just my thoughts on that. One thing that does have that. I think they do a pretty good job with are the directing for the action sequences. I think they do a pretty good job with that, especially during the car chase sequence in the desert that looks straight like Seven ripped it for their film in the last part, which you mentioned. The actual car chase with the limo and the helicopter is pretty well done as a practical effect for that scene.
Yeah,
that one is pretty well done. And I think that like some of the shooting scenes are pretty good too. One that does suffer is that final the fight scene in the rain / fire hydrant water with I guess his name is Joshua, right?
Yes.
Gary Busey's character is
Joshua.
They always refer to him as just Joshua, like
because he looks like a man. It's like, hey Josh, don't call me Josh.
I like how Mel Gibson refers to him as that albino guy. It's pretty funny. Plus, we do need to talk about this. Why would Rianne, I guess her name is, Rianne, be super attracted to fucking Gary Busey's character in this? He's an albino-looking weirdo still in this movie. Like, this does not see... And in this film, how old is Gary Busey? Like, 30?
Mid-30s?
Yeah, mid-30s. I feel like... why would she be attracted to this dude?
No, not even. He's like Danny Glover's age, because he's, I think he's 2 years older than Danny Glover.
Yeah, I mean, he was born in 1944, so, I mean, himself, he would have been 43 years old. So
doesn't look it. He looks, nice and...
Yeah, he does, but I'm just saying, like, why would his daughter be, like, first of all, even met this guy, and then be attracted to him besides? It's just not, like, her type is the rugged Mel Gibson type.
Mullet and all.
Mullet and all. Likes the lion-haired mane.
I'm telling you.
Got going on.
I'm telling you, in Lethal Weapon, he looks just like fucking Christopher Walken as Max Zorin in A View to a Kill with the bleach blonde hair slicked back and the glasses.
Yep.
But
you know who I was surprised?
As I was gonna say too, going off the directing, I don't know who the second unit director was to do all those action scenes, but the film overall was directed by Richard Donner. Mm-hmm. Which, if you don't know, Richard Donner did the original Superman and most of Superman 2 before he got fired. Mm-hmm. So yeah, pretty good director. You got.
I thought it was interesting in that last fight sequence that I was talking about, where they had like some really swift editing for a little while, like right at the beginning of the fight scene. It's like so fast editing that you can't even see what's happening. And then afterwards they sort of like zoom out to have the full fight. But in that first moment, it was like very close up fighting that occurs in that, which was very, I thought was disorienting and hard to follow until they zoomed out further.
Which is a trope that's very popular today when it comes to action sequences, to have it focused on so close, like, what's going on? Yeah. And have, like, just quick edits, and it's like, just shoot the goddamn thing, further away. That's why, like, one of the best scenes, like, Atomic Blonde's, like, that whole staircase fight sequence. Yeah. Because they keep it away and let it go.
Yeah, and you can actually see what's happening.
See what the hell's going on,
I, thought that the whole fight sequence within the fire hydrant scene, first of all, is ridiculous, because there's no way that any cop force is just going to be like, what's going on there? Oh, yeah, he wanted to just fight him fist to fist, man to man. Oh, okay, we'll just let it go on.
It's a man's world. Rugged.
Yeah, you just let it happen. But anyway, it's ripped straight from a Van Damme movie. Like, the whole fisticuffs thing is from
every Van Damme movie has to end with a showery,
like
fight.
Rain. It's like the new Marvel thing or the new DC thing where it's like so dark that you can't barely see anything ending in finale. But that was so. We talked about cliches again. I would say that one is a cliche in Lethal Weapon.
Oh, the fight. What about the fiery cars?
Oh yeah, the fiery cars.
Just like Death Wish. Just everything's exploding for no reason.
Yeah, the fiery cars too is definitely ripped from basically any other 80s action movie, because everybody misunderstood cars in the 80s.
Or I think people just thought it'd be cool,
Probably.
Or maybe it's because everyone in the 70s after the Pinto, like, hey, you run into the back of the Pinto and the whole fucking thing goes up, So every car, you flip it over.
Yeah, my favorite was like when the car that Gary Busey's driving gets shot in the front.
And it just lights up like a tinder.
Yeah, it just starts on fire. It's like, well, what did it hit? To start it on fire. There was no, inflammatory thing in the front.
I love when after that happens, he crashes and he grabs the other guy's car. He's like, "Hey, I want to drive your Audi."
Yeah. Like I said, the film isn't super comedic, but it does have those moments where it works in some of the comedy. And Shane Black obviously was the writer on this one as well as in Predator, and does work in some of those elements of the same type of comedy. Whereas you wouldn't say Predator is particularly comedic either. I mean,
it is in the beginning.
It does have its moments.
It's because it's so over the top macho, Jesse Ventura's talking about Tyrannosaurus sex cock drive and you're bleeding. Can't bleed right now.
Yeah, I mean, it does have its moments as well, but I think it does have elements of comedy, but it tones it down for a more serious overall plot, especially because it involves Murdoch's daughter being abducted and basically
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson being tortured by a squeegee device. That's another serious aspect.
Well, and being like I was gonna say, being literally suicidal. In the beginning, we get to see him, play around, putting a bullet in his pistol and putting it under his chin and his mouth.
Not just a regular bullet; it's a hollow point.
Make sure he gets really dies.
Yeah. Make sure someone has to clean it up after. I mean, but I think for the most part, unlike the rest of the films, this is a pretty serious film. One thing that I was astounded by is that the final scene where they're trying to catch Joshua, because he's the only one that gets away. Mel Gibson, despite the fact that he's basically a marathon sprinter, cannot run through the freeway. Cannot run all the way across the LA freeway to catch Joshua in a speeding car. They have to basically go back to Murdoch's house because they know that Joshua's probably going back to the house to basically murder the rest of Murdoch's family.
Wouldn't at that point, like, jig is up, cops are on.
Yeah, Joshua would just be like, fuck this, I'm out. Like,
just
too hot, and just get out of there. That's what I would do.
Yeah, former Special Force CIA agent, just, I'm out, bye,
But once he goes back to the house, I'm astounded that the plan was to, one, allow 2 cops to be murdered, as Joshua does that, and then goes into the house, and then 2, drive the police squad car into the front of Murdoch's house. Like, he's just like, sure, there's no other better solution, like hiding in the house somewhere and then jumping out. And
it's like Home Alone, little Kevin McAllister, like, oh, here comes the car through the...
Yeah. And that's the only solution, is to, like, fucking drive the car through the house. It makes for a good action piece, yeah, set piece, but, probably not so good for the Murdoch family, who has to now rebuild at the end of this movie.
Good thing he's got, insurance.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Now, talking about the action pieces, we'll compare it to Die Hard.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this movie's got better, compared to Die Hard, has better action, like smaller action set pieces. However, I think where, Die Hard tops it is that, like, the big one is much better than the big one, Lethal Weapon. That whole, and by the time at the end we get to that just, like, fist fight and, that, comes across as cheesy and,
Not only that, but it's because they've already gotten the big bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, Joshua's like the small bait. Like, it really doesn't matter at this point anymore. The only thing is more so, like, in this one, Riggs has to prove that he's like the ultimate fighter.
Yeah.
Because he's always, he's been the guy with, they talk about it. He's like,
knows Tai Chi and bullshit.
He's got basically all of the titles under his belt for different types of karate.
But yeah, no, the smaller bits are better, but like the climax in here, like at least for the action set piece, kind of lame.
Yeah.
Like I said, like the whole fighting in the fire hydrant, kind of lame. Die Hard, building top of the building blowing up and jumping up. Yeah, that
has the better climax for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I think for the most part, like the gunfights and stuff that happen in here are better than Die Hard. Die Hard is just like to kind of add more men, but I think it's more pedantic and they last a little too long because they're just shootouts. Here, you get to see, things like the guy's dead and we're trying to lift him up. It's like, no, he's not dead. And he and he grabs, Riggs' gun. He's going to shoot Murdoch, but Riggs stops him and shoots him,
Yeah. Yeah, it does have those little moments where it's like,
you saved my life,
You don't, it's going to happen. They're not dead, but,
Oh, especially at the end with Joshua when after all that, and then he reaches, they're cuffing him. And, he goes for the cop's gun. They both whip around in slow motion. And
yeah, in a different movie, that could have been the start of a gay romance, too, at the end. And you see them both, back to back shooting, kind of in the rain, too. It's very romantic.
Could have added a little bit of Red Dead Deadeye, and, tagging. It's like, you do dueling in the original Red Dead. Yeah. You get to tag them all, I'm going to shoot you this many times in the balls,
We didn't talk about the mystery, the secret helicopter that comes out of nowhere to kill Tom Atkins.
No one heard a fucking helicopter buzzing by.
Yeah, and there's even another scene afterwards when they're meeting in the desert, and the helicopter's you can see it off in 2 miles away it's coming, and you can hear the buzzing of the helicopter. But yeah, when Tom Atkins, no one hears a helicopter, and Mel Gibson's even outside.
I think that's one of the great lies of cinema, even greater than exploding cars and stuff.
Yeah,
and surviving explosions. Yeah. You mean the fucking tell me like that? Quiet helicopters. Helicopters never being that loud. Have you ever been by a helicopter? Yes. Those things are really fucking loud.
Yeah, and Riggs was outside the entire time, so he didn't even see it coming. Nothing. No one's flying a helicopter that low, unless they mean business. What What else?
Would you think of the house explosion?
The house explosion. It reminds me, and this would have been later.
Little bit of overkill, don't you think, just to take out a hooker?
Yeah, for sure.
Exploding that couldn't assassin. No, Mercury detonator. Special forces do this kind of crap. It's like, oh, that's narrowing down.
Yeah. No, it is interesting with the house blowing up because you would think that they would have just waited for them to actually enter the building before they blew it up.
I think it was set on a timer.
Right, but why? If you were trying to take out, that the cops are probably going to go back to question this prostitute because she even told the cops that she saw what happened.
The only thing I can think of, they were trying to make it look like it was a gas leak.
Yeah.
So it's like some LA, LA noir, but Cole, after Detective Cole Phelps gets, demoted from vice to arson, he's sitting there grabbing the mercury detonator going, don't think this is useful.
Yeah, that is true because they did say the gas man was there. They made it look like there was a gas man there that was checking the meter and stuff like that. I
know, but again, if you're a good, a good detective, you call hey,
right, they did too.
Yeah,
they called the gas.
So again, the whole thing is whole premise is stupid. You just couldn't sneak in and poison her.
Yeah, they didn't really think that one through. They were like, let's make the most mischief possible for this one prostitute to blow up the entire house. But it did remind me a little bit of Speed.
No.
Yeah. Jeff Daniels.
No, I know. That's why I said don't say. Murdered. That's why I'm saying no, not because it's not like Speed. No, because I don't want to think of Jeff Daniels getting killed by Dennis Hopper.
Yep. Blown up.
I don't know why, but every time I think of Speed, I just think of Dennis Hopper going, you know what a bomb that doesn't go off is? A cheap watch!
I love Speed. We'll have to do that one at some point.
It's a great movie.
Do you have anything else about Lethal Weapon? I really don't have that much else to say about Lethal Weapon. Anything you can think of that we didn't cover? It's a fun movie. It's like mindless entertainment for the most part.
So we'll go back to the comparisons to Die Hard.
Uh-huh.
So after everything we kind of covered and some of the comparisons we make, why do you think Die Hard's got a much bigger following? I mean, this movie did gangbusters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they made 4 fucking films.
Mm-hmm.
They've rebooted it into a TV series.
I think that overall, Die Hard just has the more entertaining and entirety of the film is more entertaining. I like the Nakatomi Plaza aspect of that. It's just set in one location.
I honestly think it's nostalgia glasses.
You think so?
Because after we watched Die Hard and Die Hard 2, I was like, I like it, but I don't think it's nowhere near the greatest action movie of all time.
That is true.
Are you seriously going to tell? I would like to have a discussion with somebody. You're seriously going to tell me Die Hard is better than fucking Fury Road? That it's better than Dread?
I don't think it's the best movie ever. I
don't think people are saying that, but when they talk about action films, everyone's like, "No, Die Hard."
I think for myself, I like Die Hard more than Lethal Weapon. I think Lethal Weapon has a few too many downtimes, and that's.
I think it's like a toss up for me. After watching it now, I think it's because there's something I think overall the acting and characters are much better in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the only great thing acting-wise when it comes to Die Hard is Reginald V. Johnson and fucking Alan Rickman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so bad I can't remember the goddamn guy's name that was in Principal in The Breakfast Club. But he's always great because he's unfortunately been typecasted as the Stickler asshole and everything. But
yeah.
But I mean, like I said, the smaller action pieces are better in this than they are in Die Hard. Die Hard's got the better overall action set piece,
Yeah.
The premise is much better in this, in Die Hard than it is in this film. So I think it's a push for me.
Yeah.
I think it's a push. I might give Lethal Weapon a slight edge. Soundtrack's more memorable for Lethal Weapon.
That's true.
Literally, the only thing Die Hard has going for it is the Run DMC song in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, after we watched Die Hard as well, it's not. I didn't think it was like amazing, but I do like it quite a bit just because it's set in the plaza, and I think that's one of its main attractions. But Lethal Weapon has its moments too, and I think that they're both fairly good films. And yeah, maybe in an alternate universe, if somebody had just latched on to Lethal Weapon a little bit more, we would have had a craze for Lethal Weapon rather than Die Hard, and it would have been the
maybe
more
I think it might be because Lethal Weapon after the fourth one, they were just done.
Maybe.
They didn't
Die Hard has sort of lasted more.
Because, like, every couple of years, like, hey, kids, it's like in 2007, it's like, hey, kids, Justin Long's along for the game, and Live Free or Die Hard,
right.
And then...
And they just keep bringing it back.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon, they were like, after 4, because 4 was like when it really started to, like, go off the rails and get ridiculous.
Well, I think also Mel Gibson going off the rails
True.
as well.
Probably didn't help. And that might be another reason why people are really hesitant to go back to Lethal Weapon, is just because... It's like, do we still support Mel Gibson? Right now, I mean, people have been...
He's making a comeback.
Yeah, he's basically
the daddy's home, too, and,
Yeah.
But you can't know, because you can't say that, because no matter what shit Kevin Spacey did, you're not going to tell me Seven's not a great movie, or, The Usual Suspects isn't a great movie, and his acting... Yeah, the shit he's done makes him a terrible person, but guess what? Movies he was in, they're good.
Yeah. I think it was just the controversy that really didn't help Lethal Weapon 2.
I know, like I said, that's years after the fact.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson going off the rails.
I can't really pinpoint, though, when Die Hard became, like...
Cemented as cult.
Like a really cult classic film.
I think it had to be, like, around 2007. Like, after Live Free and Die Hard. And people are like, man... This isn't as good, because I'm sure it had been like 10 years after, like 10, 15 years since, the last Die Hard 3. So people are like, oh yeah, let's go see this Die Hard, it's going to be great. And then they're like, man, this thing sucks.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the original. And, they go back and watch the original, like, yeah, the original's a shit ton better. So,
that's true.
Like I said, I think
could have been the revitalizing of the series that did it.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just built on, the foundation.
I don't know what you mean.
Siri heard us there. I don't know what she heard, but all right. So should we rate Lethal Weapon?
Sure.
All right. Out of 10 terrible Christmas turkey dinners, because Murdoch's wife can't cook worth a shit apparently. What would you give Lethal Weapon?
Which is, says something, because Mel Gibson looks like he lives off nothing but cigarettes and cheap beer.
True. Yeah.
So. The fact that even like when he's getting fed a turkey meal, he has the audacity like, this tastes like shit,
Yeah, I know.
that's saying something. Danny Glover looks like he's well fed, so that he like if he skipped a meal, he'd be like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't remember what I gave Die Hard. But if I had to, reanalyze it again, I'd probably say it'd be the same thing with a 7.5. I think I like Lethal Weapon slightly more.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I think Danny Glover and Mel Gibson are a lot of fun. As cliched as some of the stuff is and the bare bones the overall plot is, still a lot of fun. Tom Atkins looks like hell.
Yeah.
It's great. It's only just a couple of years after Halloween 3, and even though in Halloween 3 he looks really young for his age, here he looks like he, accelerated by quite a while.
I think it's kind of funny too that they casted Mitch O'Ryan as well, because they sort of look similar in this movie.
And he sounds a lot like he was sounding a little bit like Ricardo Montalban every time he was talking.
Yeah, and he has that delightful turtleneck that he wears quite a bit.
He had quite the collection,
Yeah, that's like the only thing he wears is turtlenecks.
That's how you know it's Christmas in L.A. Someone's walking around with a nice, nice frock on, But I'd give it a 7.5. It's a lot of, I think it's fun. It is serious, but it does have its, comedic moments, too, with the interaction between Mel Gibson and Danny Glover.
You get to see Mel Gibson's ass.
Oh, yeah,
Yep. Bare ass out there.
He really, I think his mullet is very impressive. Prime late 80s mullet.
If you're going for a mullet, you better have, a very prominent one.
Just think about it. Like, who had the patience to grow a mullet out? Like, imagine if you shaved your hair, and then you're like, fuck, I want a mullet. You gotta wait like a year and a half to grow your like.
Yeah, it's impressive that you put in the patience and the effort to grow it out like that,
and then groom it to keep your front short and like, good lord.
And it also sort of looked like they feathered it too. A little bit.
No, everyone had feathers.
Yeah,
Danny Glover's the only one that doesn't have his hair feathered, and he's like,
Yeah.
As I said, like when we see all the women with like their fucking terrible 80s hairsprayed haircuts in this, I'm like, I'm surprised anyone got laid back then. Like just looking at it, it's like, oh,
yeah, those are the prostitutes you're paying to get laid.
Even the ones like in the police station stuff, like the doc, like her hair was terrible too. It's like, it's amazing. I feel like everyone would just be looking at themselves and like, oh, you all look terrible. Everyone looks like crap.
It was the
look,
the aura of the time. You didn't even recognize it.
They didn't have Bon Jovi's greatest hits back then. They just had the albums.
That's right.
But I'd give it a 7.5. I think it's fun. And it's interesting. I will say one thing I don't like about it is the fact that it's a buddy cop movie, because to be honest with you, I don't really care for buddy cop movies. Mm-hmm. The whole the old gruff bastard who just wants to be left alone and I don't want a partner, and I got the young upstart and like that kind of dynamic, it just doesn't really work, work for me. But Mel Gibson, Danny Glover are charismatic enough to
that's true
pull through with it. Because you can almost think Die Hard's kind of a buddy cop movie in the sense that when you had the constant talkings between Bruce Willis and Reginald V. Johnson. Yeah. He's just not in Nakatomi Plaza with him. But the interaction they have too is like that, and even though that's one of the stronger points, I think the fact that they're distant, not in the same building, is what makes that stronger. Because just imagine Reginald V. Johnson running around with Twinkies in the Nakatomi Plaza with Bruce Willis, and like, I don't know if I can do that, but
I would give Lethal Weapon I would give it a 7. I think it's a pretty fun movie. The only thing is that I found that I had a really hard time like talking about anything in particular, because not a lot of it stands out as being anything like super I don't know, surprising. It's very, and that may be because we're just so used to movies like this now that there's been so many prominent movies of like buddy cop movies and action movies that this one feels generic, and it really wasn't for the time. But to me, it is like a very generic, stereotypical 80s action film. It does that pretty well, except for maybe the plot itself, which could have used a little bit of work and expanding it a little bit more than just like the overshadowing war, as basically every description of what's going on and why the bad guys are bad and why the good guys are good. But other than that, I thought it was really good. I think Danny Glover and Mel Gibson have a good chemistry, and they work pretty well together. And other than that, it got some good action scenes. The fight sequence is at least well choreographed, if not maybe as climactic as one would hope for the end sequence. But it's a really fun, and I would say probably like right now, like above average action film for the 80s. Yeah. So we are going to be back next week with one more episode for, we'll call it the Festivus series. We haven't really picked out what we're going to do yet. And it's going to be the day after, it'll be after Christmas, obviously, but it'll be something. Maybe we'll find another Christmas movie to do. Maybe we'll find a New Year's movie to do. Who knows? Still up in the air.
Seriously, if anyone wants to argue with me about Die Hard being the greatest action movie, please.
Go for it, yeah.
Send Ryan a message.
That's right. We have an email account, bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com, where you can email us about it. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. We're on Twitter at bloodandblackrum. We're on Podbean, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. You can leave us a review and subscribe to us. We appreciate that. And then, as always, you can donate to us on our Patreon page at bloodandblackrumpodcast.podbean.com. That is where you can donate even just $1 to help us each month. We really appreciate anything that you can help out with keeping our podcast on the air. Thank you for listening. We'll be back with one last Festivus episode after Christmas, but we hope you have a very Merry Christmas coming up. Thanks for listening.
Take care.